You know, this isn't in the questions, but I've always, maybe I should know this, but the right to farm community signs are at the border when you come into town. What is a right to farm community? What does that mean?
The right to farm community puts people on notice that agriculture is by right, it's not by zoning. That you have a right to raise a chicken, you have a right to keep a horse, you have a right to do this and this and this and this, or raise produce. You see, agriculture, this is going to take more than a minute if you want to hear the answer.
Sure.
Okay. Agriculture is protected, is a non-conforming commercial use of the property by statute on 5 or more acres that's dedicated to the production of food or fiber. That doesn't help out your backyard person. Okay, so for them to have a right to do what they do, we have this right to farm community, and also it puts people on notice when they come into town, and realtors, and it's posted at the assessor's office that you're moving into town, and unless there's a covenant on the and there are some portions of this town that has covenants in the developments that went in, Apple Valley Road and places like that,
Sure.
where certain animals can't be kept by covenant. You need to know that somebody may have a rooster next door to you, and yeah, they crow at dawn, and sometimes at the full moon. So, does that answer your question?
It does, yeah. No, that's good. I mean, we're going to be posting this, right, on YouTube in segments, unfortunately, but, and I think, a lot of people wonder that when they come into town. I do myself, so I appreciate your answering that. Do you want to follow up?
Ms. Vadney, town building plans. Again, what future plans do you have for exploring a new town hall center, either at a new location or possibly in place of the N1 school? And what about a new police fire facility or even a comprehensive Rehoboth Town Center development project?
Sounds like a question you didn't want me to answer 2 minutes ago, but I'll give it a shot for you.
That would be an incorrect assumption.
Oh. Well, that's not foreign to me either. We need to take a look at, the primary need is the town hall. And I think that the last time this came before the voters, they reacted to misinformation. There was information that was disseminated by private parties that was not entirely true. It was misleading. And I agree with whichever one of you guys said you think we dropped the ball. It's probably Steve said that we kind of dropped the ball on that. We need to pursue that. The structure that we are using now is woefully inadequate. And I could go on and on. If it was owned, in my opinion,
10 seconds left.
okay, in my opinion, and I also hold a mass contractor's license, that the building, if it was owned by someone who was a landlord, they'd be in court.
Senior citizens are a very important part of our community. What are your recommendations for appropriate senior housing?
That's a question you should ask my father-in-law. He sits on the housing board. That's a question for housing, although Board of Selectmen, in conjunction with other boards in town, are having a look-see at the Anawan School to see if we can't somehow get some funding on that to make that a housing for elderly. I think it's tied in with the veterans type of approach to it. But we have a housing authority, and that's what the housing authority should be looking at.
Okay, they're finally going to let me ask a question. What is your favorite color? No. So I think that's we're basically running out of time, or we're right on schedule for where we want to be. So if we can move to the 2-minute closing statements, and we'll call it a night. So let's start with Mr. Ennis.
Thank you all for having me here. I came, again, as I said, I came here about 5 years ago, and I'm just looking out to see if I can help our community grow, plus stay the rural community that we're looking at. And as I think Mr. Nunez and Mr. Ballard mentioned, Mr. Brooks and I, we're both on the board, we're running uncontested, so if people don't like us, and we can entice them out to get a write-in vote against me, and I can force people to come out and vote, and I'll assume that I did a good job also. But any citizenry efforts in voting, I would appreciate. But I look forward to working with you all for another 5 years.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks?
As I said earlier, it's been an honor and a pleasure to serve on the planning board. I would ask for your vote on April 1st. I feel like I'm a pretty lucky guy. I live in a wonderful town. I've got an opportunity to give back a little something to it. So, again, it's a pleasure. And thank you very much to the Business Association for hosting us tonight. It was a lovely evening. So.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vadnais?
Well, interesting enough, you asked someone earlier, I think it was Gene Campbell, what could be done to make the town more business friendly. And I think one thing that you could do would be to, amongst yourselves, the RBA, elect yourself a member that would represent your concerns, and there seems to be many here, to the Board of Selectmen as an agenda item on our select. We need more dialogue other than this candidates type of night. I think that I got a flavor of what you're looking for, but where do we go with it from there? I would ask you to consider that. And I think that the rest of the board would more than welcome your input on a regular basis through a representative that came before us. Whenever there was a need, call up, you'd be right on the agenda. And I think that that would be a good service to the town. The other thing is that, you know, the small businesses in this town are actually, you know, part of the real fabric of this town. You're providing, whether you know so or not, more than a forum here tonight. It's your coffee shops and your restaurants and your parking lots where a lot of the politique or politicking takes place in this town. A lot of it. You go to Dunkin' Donuts, you go to the country store, you go to Cumberland Farms. I can't walk into one of these places and not hear some sort of exchange of ideas. So you're really a part of this fabric. You're providing a forum on a daily basis. And that's a good thing. And finally, what I want for this town is, I want for every citizen, when they come back into town, they see that sign, Rehoboth, I want them from that moment on, when they cross that line, to feel like they're home. They're not at their house, but they're home. And everything I do is going to be geared towards that.
Linda?
Thank you all for joining us tonight. I really do appreciate your attendance and your contributions, and appreciate that the town of Rehoboth is focused on working in a collaborative manner. A little bit of feedback just to Skip's comment about the RBA, bringing representation in front of the selectmen, and we appreciate that invitation. We've initiated contributions through the EDC and would ask for your support in compelling board members to actually contribute to the EDC meetings. I would also like to validate a few of our attendees. Selectman Dr. Joseph Tito, Super Mentel, Representative Howitt, Representative Lorraine Botts. Oh, excuse me. We just got it, sorry. We just gave you in advance. Selectman Lorraine Botts. You just didn't know that yet, did you? You kibitzed on the side.
Careful what you wish for.
And Kathy Conti. And Kathy, we'd like to all thank you for your contributions to the town. You'll be sorely missed. We've introduced the moderators here. Could we quickly go around the room for the RBA members? Mr. Spatcher?
George Spatcher, I'm an attorney from Attleboro.
Mr. Howitt?
Steve Howitt, Logging Tractor, State Rep.
George Codono?
Who's got real estate?
Judy Duran, please.
Judy Duran, brand new employee of Edward Jones Financial.
Cindy Saliba.
Cindy Saliba, Home and Commercial Security.
Connie Wenzel-Jordan.
Rehoboth Now.
Mr. Travis.
Hi, Lou Travis, local lawyer at the corner of 44 and 118.
Mr. Castro.
Mike Castro, Thresher and Oliveira, CPA firm in Attleboro.
And again, my name is Linda Ferrera. I'm the financial advisor here in town at Edward Jones. As a little follow-up commentary on our ability to maybe look at some resources being improved with the town, specifically the senior center and the town center. I know that Sue would probably agree with this. I don't want to speak out of turn, but interest rates are cheap. I think somebody had mentioned that if we're going to do it, perhaps now is the time. Hate to borrow money, but quite frankly, at a 30-year bond being about 3.5%, it might be the time. That's just my little follow-up, but thank you. And again, thank you all for joining us, and appreciate that we're all, again, trying to work together, and appreciate your patience with our questions tonight. We actually skewed it a little bit to instill some responses as you have. So thank you. Thank you all again.
Thank you.